Hello everyone, welcome back to Into Sports. I'm your host Evan, of course, and this weekend is Wild Card Weekend, one of the best weekends in the whole year. Because on Saturday, January 5th, that is when the NFL playoffs start, and today I'm here to predict what I think will happen in those games, and also I'll give you my Super Bowl prediction at the end of the video. So let's start at the January 5th Saturday game. 4:35, the number 6 seed Colts at a 10-6 record go into Houston to take on the number 3 Texans, who have an 11-5 record. Houston is a 1.5 point favorite with a 47.5 point over/under. Now Ryan Kelly for the Colts, their wonderful center who really helps out in the run game, he's questionable for this one, but I do expect him to play. We all know T.Y. Hilton has been battling through injuries, and once again, he will play. Probably at 90 or 95% though. Maybe like 85. But he won't be 100%, but he definitely will play. I think this is going to be a pretty high scoring one. I'll take the over here. And I'll take the Colts 28-27. Listen, Andrew Luck is on fire. The Colts are 9-1 in their last 10 games. They're only the third team in NFL history to make the playoffs after starting 1-5. These two teams split the season series. Each winner won their game on the road by 3 points. Colts won last meeting on the road in Houston. And like I said, I think they'll take it again. T.Y. Hilton in that last meeting, 199 yards. This Houston secondary has been absolutely torched, especially by deep play receivers. Heck, they got beat up by Nelson Aguilar. But a key piece of this game is going to be the battle at the line of scrimmage. And I'm looking at the Texans' defensive line, featuring stars like J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney. Are they going to be able to create pressure and stop the run against this elite Colts offensive line, featuring guys like Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, who is questionable, but I think he'll play. Marlon Mack has 119 yards or more in 2 of the last 3. So if Colts do win the battle line of scrimmage, expect Mack to have a big day. Last meeting, the Colts managed to slow down DeAndre Hopkins, who only had 4 catches for 36 yards. But I'm not expecting that. I'm expecting something more like we saw in the first meeting, where he had 10 receptions for 169 yards. And a touchdown, I believe. So we know Hopkins is going to come to play. We know Deshaun Watson is big time. But Lamar Miller, will he be able to run the ball on this Colts defense featuring Darius Leonard, one of the elite young linebackers in this league? He only had 82 yards in 2 games combined against Indianapolis on the ground. They're going to need to be able to run the ball if they want to keep pace with Andrew Luck and if they want to keep him off the field. But it's certainly not going to be easy for Lamar Miller to get going in this one, considering that the Houston Texans have the worst ranked offensive line in the league. So expect Watson to not have a lot of time to throw, which he hasn't all year, but expect that trend to continue. And I'm not expecting a big game from Lamar Miller, like I could be expecting from Marlon Mack if the Colts do win that battle at the line of scrimmage. So in a battle of 2 AFC South rivals in Houston, I'm taking the Colts by a point, high scoring. I'm looking at a big game from Andrew Luck, huge game from T.Y. Hilton, and I think the Colts defense can contain Deshaun Watson and stop the run. Now let's move on to the 8:15 game between the number 5 seed Seattle, 10-6, going into Dallas, going into Jerry World, to play the number 4 Dallas Cowboys, who are also 10-6. Dallas is 1.5 point favorites in this one, with only a 43.5 point over/under. Doug Baldwin, who is not practicing on Tuesday, is practicing in full now, and he will play in this game against Dallas. Therefore, I am taking Seattle to win 23-21 in another close game. The last meeting was in Seattle at CenturyLink Field, home of the 12th man, and the Seahawks won 24-13, but that was in week 3. Now, here's why I'm taking Seattle. I'm getting a better coach and a better quarterback. But you may say, well, they have Zeke Elliott. He's one of the best backs in the league. Do not forget what Chris Carson is doing. He's 5th in the league in rushing yards. And when they hired Brian Schottenheimer in the offseason as offensive coordinator, a guy who loves to run the ball, just ground and pound, that's his philosophy, I laughed. Because they had a terrible offensive line back then, but they've made it work. They've turned it into a good offensive line. And they didn't have a lot of defense back then, but the defenses played well. So this running style that they can do, it's working, and it's winning them games. But through the air, Doug Baldwin, 4 touchdowns in the last 4 games, and he's looked a lot healthier. And it's very encouraging to see that he's back at practicing in full. Now, speaking of Chris Carson, it's going to be a little bit tough sledding on the ground because the linebackers for Dallas, Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith, arguably the best linebacker core in the whole league. It's going to be tough sledding there. I still think Chris Carson can get it done, though. For Seattle, I do have a little bit of concern. Tyler Lockett matched up against Byron Jones. If Lockett gets a big play, I think that could be the difference in a low-scoring game, but I don't think he will, because Byron Jones is one of the elite cornerbacks that no one is talking about in this league. In Dallas, they're 7-1 at home. They're a different team at home because they're running the ball more with Zeke, but it's going to be tough sledding for him too, because Bobby Wagner, the best linebacker in football, is on the opposing side for Seattle. And they need to get Amari Cooper going. Only 83 yards in the last 3 games combined. We fell in love with what he did against Washington on Thanksgiving. Then we saw it again a few weeks later against Philadelphia. And we haven't seen it since. So if Cooper can have 83 yards in this game, not over 3 games combined, then I think Dallas has a good shot. But I still think Seattle wins 23-21. All right. Now let's move on to Sunday. 1:05 Eastern, the number 5 Los Angeles Chargers, at a 12-4 record, come into Baltimore, the number 4 seed, with a 10-6 record. Baltimore is 2.5-point favorites with another low over-under, 41.5 points. Now, Hunter Henry, the LA Chargers tight end, he's likely to play. This would be the first time this year. He suffered a torn ACL in the offseason, and he's coming back for this one. You know it's a big game. Melvin Gordon hurt his ankle a little bit in Denver. He will play also. And my pick, 24-23 Los Angeles. A lot of close games. And this will be another one of them. Now you may be saying, well, Baltimore won 22-10 in Week 16. That was only 2 weeks ago. That game was in Los Angeles. But guess what? The Chargers have a different intensity when they're on the road, and it's a much better one. They're 7-1 on the road. They're only 5-3 at home. And Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator, and Anthony Lynn, I expect them to adjust to this Ravens offense. Because whenever you're playing a unique style, like Baltimore, no one really runs the ball with their quarterback and running back, and they play excellent defense. That's not really something we see in the modern NFL. So when you get to see that twice in 3 weeks, expect this Chargers coaching staff to adjust, and I'm expecting them to limit this run game, loaded box, 8 men in it, and they can do that because they have Casey Hayward, a top elite corner on the outside. He'll be working on John Brown most of the game, I suspect. So I don't think there's going to be a big play for Baltimore like there was when Lamar Jackson threw an 80-yarder to Mark Andrews in Los Angeles. The Chargers also have the elite young safety Derwin James out of Florida State. Man, he is going to be good for years and years to come. Lamar Jackson is 6-1 as a starter, and Baltimore is also 6-1 when they're getting 3 or more sacks. And Los Angeles' biggest weakness is at guard. And 3 of their 4 losses of the Chargers have came when they've given up 3 or more sacks. So if Ravens can get to that 3 sacks mark, maybe they win this one. Thank you, Spencer, for that great stat. The way Baltimore is winning games is Lamar Jackson is running. They're 5-0 when he rushes for 70 more yards. They're dominant in the time of possession. They keep opposing offenses off the field, and they defend at a top 2 level. Them and Bears are the top 2 defenses in the league. That really throws the opposing quarterback for a loop when they're sitting on the bench for so long. And Rivers, he can't turn the ball over in this game. Once at most, But if he gets 2 turnovers, Baltimore's going to win this one. To help Rivers out, they're going to have to establish this run game with Melvin Gordon. But he's going to have to go against C.J. Mosley, the Ravens' all-pro linebacker. Now, Eckler didn't play the last time these teams met, and Gordon only had 41 rushing yards. But Eckler not playing is a huge thing because he's their wild card back. He's not Melvin Gordon where he's kind of a power guy. Eckler's very explosive, very small, very quick, makes excellent sharp cuts, and getting that elite change of pace back will really help Los Angeles in this game. And finally, Keenan Allen has been a little bit quiet in the last few games, and he's going to have a very tough matchup in the slot against Marlon Humphrey. Allen had 5 receptions, 58 yards in the last meeting, but he wasn't fully healthy. Now he's fully healthy, and I expect him to have 80 yards, 6 receptions, 80 yards, and I expect him to get in the paint one time. We'll see him celebrating in Baltimore. So just to recap this game, I'm picking the Chargers to go into Baltimore, M&T Bank Stadium, and win by a single point, 24-23. I think them having played Baltimore just 2 weeks ago is a huge advantage because when you play these weird offenses, it's so important to see them a second time because it's really hard to prepare the first time. Now let's move on to the final game of this wildcard weekend, and then I'll give you my Super Bowl prediction. Sunday, 4:40 p.m. Eastern, of course. The 6th seed, Philadelphia Eagles. Cinderella story once again. They're at a 9-7 record, and they have to go into Soldier Field, into Chicago, to play the number 3 seed, the Bears, who have a 12-4 record. Now, Chicago's 6-point favorites in this one, with a 41-point over-under. Allen Robinson will play. He had a rib injury, didn't play last week for the Bears, so that's important to get him back, the number 1 receiver. And Nick Foles will play. Man, the Super Bowl MVP is back in the playoffs. He had bruised ribs, exited early against Washington last week, but he will be good to go. My pick, 24-16, I'll take the Bears. This game is in Chicago, meaning it'll be very cold and very low scoring. It'll be a very heavy defensive game, and the Eagles' secondary is banged up. Now, the question is, can the Bears take advantage of that? Because Trubisky really hasn't been a downfield thrower this year. It's been about Matt Nagy designing excellent schemes. My coach of the year. Matt Nagy's truly great. But designing schemes for Trey Burton, screens for Taylor Gabriel, are shots down the field for him. And also, Tariq Cohen, a matchup nightmare on 3rd down. He'll have to bail out Trubisky once or twice in this game, but I think he'll do that. Now, Jordan Howard is heating up for Chicago. He has 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games. It was a really rocky road that he was walking on in the middle of the year, but he seemed to have found himself. They're giving him the volume and expect him to get in the end zone another time this game. Now, offensively for Philadelphia, Nick Foles, over the last 2 games, averaging 346 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns a game, and 1 interception. So he's been excellent. I don't know what it is, but when it gets playoff time, when the Eagles have to win, he's just so clutch. Now, a matchup I'm watching on the outside, Kyle Fuller, a really good cornerback for Chicago. Will he be able to contain Alshon Jeffrey? I think if they can get a deep shot to Jeffrey once or twice in this game, it could be really close, but I think Kyle Fuller will do a really good job on him, especially in the cold weather, when I think this game will be more oriented to the run. But can Josh Adams take advantage of that? For Philadelphia, the running back Josh Adams, 2.6 yards per carry on his last 37 carries, which is a 3-game span. And earlier in the year, he was really catching fire. He was averaging like 6 yards per carry, but that's dropped all the way down to 2.6. That has to come up if they want to have any chance in this game. They need to establish the run. Because this pass rush of Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks, that will be in Nick Foles' face all day. The run game is really the only way to limit them. And watch out for Nick Foles' health. Honestly, with the bruised ribs, if we see Khalil Mack get a clean shot on him, we could see some Nate Sudfeld in this game, which would be a complete disaster, and Philadelphia would have no chance. So I'm taking Matt Nagy's Bears to win a low-scoring game in the cold weather, defense-oriented, 24-16 against Nick Foles and the Cinderella story, the Philadelphia Eagles. Now let's get to my Super Bowl prediction for this year. I'm going to actually stick to the one I made before the beginning of the season. I had the Saints and the Chargers, with the Saints winning 34-27. I'm going to stick to that exact prediction because it's still what I believe. These are the two most well-rounded teams. If I look at a team like Kansas City, they play absolutely no defense. A team like New England can't win on the road. Team like Rams, very predictable in their offensive scheme. Sorry, Sean McVay. And their pass defense, not good at all. Chicago, they can't throw it down the field. Trubisky really limits their ceiling on offense. I know they're great on defense, but if they have to go into New Orleans or even into LA, I don't think that's a win. Philadelphia, I think they're going to lose in the first round to Chicago for reasons I just explained. Baltimore, I'm not trusting Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. I think LA is the better team. They'll get knocked off in the first round. Seattle, they're going to have to play on the road. They're a much better home team. Same with Dallas is a much better home team. They'll be playing at home. But I think they'll lose against Seattle. And really, Seattle doesn't have the personnel. It's kind of a rebuilding year for them, although they did make the playoffs. Very impressive. Credit to Seattle. Colts, they're a good team. It's just that they don't have the weapons they need on offense and the dominant defense that they would need. Texans, they can't defend the pass recently. So I'm getting the two most well-rounded teams with two really experienced quarterbacks, two elite quarterbacks. Each team plays very good defense. New Orleans, underrated defense. Chargers, we know about the excellent pass defense. They'll have to fix up the run game defense a little bit, but I think they can do that against Baltimore by sacking the box. Each team with elite running backs and a core of them, and a dominant number one wide receiver. So I think the Saints take it to New Orleans, take it home, take that trophy home by beating the Chargers in the Super Bowl 34-27. Quote me on it. You heard it here first. It's about to happen. But if you did enjoy this episode where I predicted all of that NFL wildcard games and I give you my Super Bowl prediction, subscribe, drop a like. I hope you guys did enjoy. I already said that. Just have a great day. Peace.